I don't want to take care of you. Fight this battle alone.
When I told him there was 1 year to live, he glared at me coldly. From that day on, he ignored me and eventually moved out without a word. I had taken care of my mother-in-law for 10 years in his place, but he treated me as if none of that mattered. I was stunned. However, 6 months later, I received 1,000 voicemails from him. When I ignored them all, something unbelievable happened to him. It was finally time to settle the score for all the resentment that had built up. The memories of marrying Johnny, who was cheerful and sociable, seemed like a distant past now that I was 58. I had quit my long-time job as a pharmacist and spent 10 years from the age of 47 taking care of my mother-in-law, who lived with us. She gradually became unable to go to the bathroom by herself and needed care around the clock. My father-in-law always looked apologetic and was grateful for my help.
Thank you so much. I don't know what we would have done without you, Cindy. I couldn't have managed alone.
It's better to do it together than alone. Let's rely on the hospital staff, daycare, and helpers as much as we can. Of course, there were tough times, but I researched available support systems and worked together with my father-in-law. However, my husband said,
Caregiving is the wife's job.
And never helped from the beginning. In fact, he started coming home later and later from work. He didn't even help with raising our own children, so I guess he never intended to help with caregiving either. Johnny was sociable, but on the flip side, he was someone who prioritized socializing and drinking with colleagues over doing anything at home. My father-in-law and I repeatedly asked my husband to help take care of my mother-in-law, but he never listened. 2 years ago, my mother-in-law passed away peacefully. I was there with her in her final moments, and at the funeral, my father-in-law tearfully thanked me. With the long years of caregiving behind me, I finally had a moment to breathe. One evening, while having dinner with my father-in-law, Johnny suddenly said,
I'm retiring at 60. I've turned down the offer for reemployment and plan to retire.
Wait a minute, we can't pay off the mortgage with just your retirement money by 60. I'll go back to work, and we can manage together until it's paid off. I hurriedly tried to stop him, but he turned red with anger.
What? You still want me to work like a horse? Treating me like an ATM?
He shouted. I think there are job openings for pharmacists, and I'll start working right away. Okay?
Don't be ridiculous. You've been able to relax as a housewife all this time. Using caregiving as an excuse. Acting all high and mighty. You can work alone and pay off the mortgage yourself.
He yelled, banging on the table so hard that the dishes clattered and almost broke. How could you say that? I quit the job I love to take care of your mother, and you call that relaxing? Tears welled up in my eyes, and I bit my lip hard.
If it weren't for Cindy, Mom wouldn't have had such a peaceful end. You did nothing, so how dare you say that?
He raised his voice to defend me, but my husband ignored his words. Despite my repeated pleas for him to reconsider his retirement, he refused reemployment and quit his job. 3 months after his retirement, Johnny still hadn't told me about the company procedures or what happened to his retirement money. Desperate, I started scouring job listings to find new work. Then one day, I received a call from our regular hospital where I had a health checkup.
It's important. so please come to the hospital as soon as possible.
Hearing the seriousness in his voice, I hurried to the hospital alone. The doctor, who had always taken care of me, said,
It's a serious illness. There is not much time left.
First caregiving, now illness. My world went dark. After my mother-in-law passed away, I hadn't had a moment to rest before facing another trial. On my way back from the hospital, I walked home slowly, weighed down by the news, as the setting sun cast long shadows. When I got home, my father-in-law was out at his chess class, and my husband was lounging in the next room, watching TV. Johnny seemed to be in a good mood, smiling. If I'm going to talk, it's now. I took a small breath and sat down next to him. I just got back from the hospital where we had my regular checkup. There was a problem. And, well, they told me there is 1 year left to live. When I finally mustered the courage to speak, my husband didn't even look at me and clicked his tongue in annoyance.
I'm watching TV right now.
He said dismissively, waving me away with his hand. But they said there is only a year left. It will keep getting worse and eventually lead to being bedridden. As I desperately tried to explain, he turned his head to glare at me.
What? I don't want to take care of you. Fight this battle alone.
He said, slamming his hand down and getting up to walk to his study. Wait, this is important. Please listen. I pleaded.
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up.
He yelled, pushing me away. I hit my head against the hallway wall and sat down, feeling a sharp pain in my neck. From then on, he ignored me completely. Even when my father-in-law tried to talk to him, he rejected his own father. And then I thought, what is going on? About 2 weeks after being told there is a year left to live, I came home from shopping to find the house completely empty. My husband had moved out without saying a word to the family. Moreover, all the valuables were gone, including the jewelry I had cherished since my single days. Have I been abandoned? I remembered Johnny's words.
I don't want to take care of you.
And clenched my teeth. I felt betrayed, but considering my future and the mortgage payments, I couldn't leave him missing. I sought help from various people to find his whereabouts. Gradually, Johnny's terrifying secrets began to surface. How could he? I can't believe it. I will never forgive him. Furious, I continued to track him down to exact my revenge. 6 months later.
Hey, what's going on? I need money. Do something about it.
Johnny said in one of the 1,000 voicemails he left me. When I played them back, he was ranting about various things, but I ignored them all. As the voicemails kept recording, he must have realized that phone calls weren't getting him anywhere.
I'm coming over now.
He finally said. It's finally time for payback. I waited for Johnny's return with a glint in my eye.
Hey, are you there?
He called out. About 30 minutes after the last voicemail, Johnny appeared at the house. He staggered into the living room, looking gaunt and his voice hoarse. Meanwhile, I sat silently in the living room, my hair shiny and my skin glowing. Johnny, startled by how healthy I looked, sat down weakly in the chair in front of me. What's the point of coming back now? I asked coldly. Fiddling with the hem of his now loose-fitting clothes, he began to explain. He said he had taken the valuables and lived off them, but his health had deteriorated. Suffering from headaches, nausea, and high fever, Johnny went to a new hospital he found after moving. However, he had forgotten to handle his insurance paperwork after retiring.
You always handled the chores, but you slacked off. Because of that, I had to pay all the medical expenses out of pocket.
He complained. You retired without telling me anything about the procedures. How was I supposed to know you hadn't switched your insurance? I retorted with a sigh. I had already taken care of my own insurance when you retired. I had even asked if I should handle his insurance too, but Johnny had ignored me.
Well, I thought I could manage with the $150,000 retirement money. At first, anyway.
He said, his expression darkening and his shoulders slumping. As I listened, it became clear that he had felt confident with the large sum of money at hand and thought he could cover the medical expenses out of pocket for a while. However, at the new hospital, they had to redo all the tests from scratch, and the high medical bills quickly drained his money. He grumbled about it, but then he looked at me and tilted his head.
By the way, I've been wondering since I got here. Why do you look so healthy? Didn't they say you had a year left to live 6 months ago?
Oh. Didn't the new doctor tell you anything?
What?
It seems there's a misunderstanding. The one with a limited time left due to illness is you. I'll never forget the look on his face at that moment. Johnny was so shocked that he froze, like a robot with its batteries drained. On the day the hospital contacted me, the doctor and I had decided that I would be the one to tell him. Since his time was limited, it was necessary to inform him as soon as possible and at the right moment. But you never listened to anyone.
What? That was about me? You should have told me properly. Are you trying to kill me?
What could I do for someone who ignored everything I said and eventually left the house, thinking I was the one who was sick? He stammered. And looked around awkwardly.
Anyway, I need money for medical expenses. So give me some. You can even use Dad's account. And handle the insurance paperwork.
Johnny demanded, his mouth twisted in irritation as he slammed his fist on the table. The purpose of the 1,000 calls since morning was to beg for money. Now you're targeting your father's money and trying to dump chores on me? There's no way I'm doing that. I shouted angrily, my eyes narrowing in fury. My husband, who had never seen me raise my voice, flinched in genuine surprise. There's no way $150,000 could be gone in just 6 months of medical bills. I took the photos from the envelope on the edge of the table and spread them out on the desk. They showed my husband flirting with a woman about 10 years younger than him. I know you were wasting money on your affair too. Johnny glanced at the photo and clicked his tongue in annoyance. He hadn't expected his affair to be discovered, so he crossed his arms and remained silent. I had discovered my husband's misdeeds when one of his subordinates visited our home while I was searching for Johnny's whereabouts. The subordinate had come to return a fountain pen that Johnny had left in his locker at work when he retired. However, when he saw me at the door, he looked puzzled.
Is the lady of the house here?
He asked. I am his wife. I replied.
What?
He said, frowning. As I listened, I learned that my husband had been meeting a woman every day after work for the past 10 years, ever since the start of caring for his mother. Moreover, Johnny had been introducing this woman as his wife to everyone around him. The subordinate was shocked to find out that the person he thought was Johnny's wife was actually someone else. While I was busy taking care of your mother, you were out playing with another woman. You've got some nerve, I shouted, pointing to the building in the photo on the table. It turned out that my husband's new place after leaving home was his mistress's apartment. Even after hearing from his subordinate, I continued searching for his whereabouts. 3 days before Johnny returned, I finally pinpointed his location. When I saw Johnny and his mistress entering the apartment together, I was tempted to confront him immediately. However, I decided to gather photographic evidence of his affair for the divorce and alimony claims. The bitterness and humiliation I felt at that moment were heart-wrenching. It seems you've been living it up. Trips, expensive purchases, fine dining. It's not just medical bills. I pulled out the remaining photos and printed credit card statements from the envelope, revealing Johnny's actions one by one, like cornering a rat. Not only did you neglect your family, but you also repeatedly betrayed us. We're getting a divorce, and I'll be claiming alimony, I said, glaring at him with sharper eyes than his, and slammed the divorce papers on the table.
Well, if you're willing to divorce me, that works out just fine. I can live happily with my new woman,
Johnny said with a sneer, as if calling me a fool, and quickly signed the papers. At that moment, I snatched the papers and securely placed them back in the envelope. Then I shouted towards the door, "Dad, Johnny is going to live with his mistress."
That won't be happening.
The living room door creaked open, and my father-in-law, who had been absent until then, suddenly appeared.
Dad, I've already signed the divorce papers, so it's too late now.
Even seeing his father's face, my husband smirked confidently. In fact, my father-in-law had been helping me all along to find my husband's whereabouts and investigate his affair.
When I heard you were coming back, I went to see the woman you were with. I just got back after having a long talk with her.
As my father-in-law spoke with a smile, Johnny's face turned pale. And? How did it go with the woman? I asked.
I told her that straying from the right path wouldn't go unpunished and that we would be demanding alimony.
She must have been quite shocked, I said, smiling confidently. My husband was the only one sweating and swallowing nervously.
She was crying, begging for mercy, and said she would cut ties with Johnny immediately.
What?
Johnny, who had been silent until then, suddenly shouted. He probably never thought he would be the one abandoned. I sighed and looked at my husband with a gaze that said he was hopeless. Dad, he doesn't seem to believe it. My father-in-law took out his smartphone and started dialing. After a few rings, a woman's voice came through the speaker.
Sophia.
My husband immediately called out her name, but the woman on the other end started yelling furiously.
You said you wouldn't cause any trouble, but because of you, I have to pay $30,000 in alimony.
She complained bitterly. Choosing Johnny was a mistake for both of us. but a crime is a crime. You'll have to pay the alimony in full, I said to the mistress in a stern, angry voice. My intensity silenced her. Let's discuss the rest through our lawyers, I added, and my father-in-law quietly ended the call. Johnny was left staring downwards, mouth agape, in shock. My father-in-law and I exchanged glances and shrugged.
Now, listen, family is the most important thing, right? We shouldn't be falling apart.
My husband, cornered, suddenly stood up from his chair, half crying, and begged for reconciliation. Just so you know, the alimony I'm asking for is $100,000. That includes the value of the jewelry you stole from me. 10 years of infidelity really adds up, I said, spreading my fingers to show 10 and pushing Johnny away as he tried to come closer. He fell back clumsily, landing on his rear, and looked to his father for help.
Don't count on me. I'm cutting ties with you. All my inheritance will go to Cindy.
What? Hey, tell Dad something.
He pleaded, now turning to me after being dismissed by his father. But I just glared at him with icy eyes, saying nothing. Realizing it was truly over, he sniffled and left the house, tears streaming down his face. After that, I immediately submitted the divorce papers and separated from my husband. Johnny and his mistress ended up having to pay a large amount of alimony. The two of them didn't support each other and eventually broke up. From what I've heard, they both took out loans from shady places to pay me and are now being chased by debt collectors. 10 years wasted, leaving them with nothing but debt. What a miserable life! I am deeply grateful to my father-in-law, who always helped me during difficult times. I have returned to my job as a pharmacist. It's been enjoyable to work again, and spending time freely outside is refreshing. My neighbors have been concerned about me, and we are planning a trip together soon. Friends are truly invaluable. For now, I will enjoy my time.
How did you like this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.